In the previous chapter, we had studied about Mamluk dynasty, which is also called as slave dynasty. Okay, and then in that we saw various rulers and founders of Mamluk dynasty. Can you name few, if you remember any rulers from Mamluk dynasty? Or if you do it from
Shamsuddin Feroz Shah, Razia Sultan,
and
Nasruddin Muhammad, and Ghiyasuddin Balban.
Ghiyasuddin Balban. Okay, so these were the different rulers which were there in the Mamluk dynasty, and then we saw towards the conclusion of Mamluk dynasty that how Mamluk dynasty lost its power, and then the Khilji dynasty took over the Mamluk dynasty. So Jalaluddin Khilji, underline this name, which is very important. He overthrew Balban's successors. Okay, he had overthrown Balban's successor and he founded the Khilji dynasty. So, who is the founder of Khilji dynasty, children?
Jalaluddin Khilji.
Jalaluddin Khilji. Okay?
Jalaluddin Khilji.
Yes, and who was the founder of Mamluk dynasty? If you remember,
Qutbuddin
Aibak. Okay, which ruled large parts of South Asia between 1290 and 1320. That was the second dynasty to rule the Delhi Sultanate of India. Okay, so just as it is highlighted, even you all highlight, it's very important that the years till which Khilji dynasty had ruled. Do you remember the years of Mamluk dynasty, children?
It was
Yes,
almost 85.
Yes. Okay. This was no. Do not underline every bit of it. The Khilji dynasty was named after a village in Afghanistan. Some historians believe that they were Afghans, but Bahrani and Wolsey had explained in their accounts that the rulers from this dynasty who came to India, though they had temporarily settled in Afghanistan, were originally a Turkic. All right. So this Khilji dynasty is named after a village in Afghanistan. Okay. And most of the historians do believe that, you know, Khilji dynasty, it is ruled by the Afghans. It contained most of the Afghans. But although we know that these people from Afghanistan had come to India for their temporary stay, all right, but they originally belonged to which part? To the Turkey. All right. The Khiljis were a Central Asian Turkic dynasty, but having been long domiciled in Afghanistan and adopted some Afghan habits and customs. So these Khiljis, as we all know, they had their roots in Afghanistan, and therefore they adopted most of the habits and cultures which belongs to the Afghans. Okay, they were treated as Afghans in Delhi court. The three sultans of the Khilji dynasty were noted by historians for their faithlessness and ferocity. Okay, so the three sultans during the during the Khilji dynasty, all right, they were notably known for their faithfulness and for their ferocity. The code languages. Now see, this is Khilji dynasty. So we will all understand that during this dynasty, how did the administrative took place? What was their main language? Which customs these people used to follow? So basically, they used to follow the customs and habits of the Afghans. But what about the language? Which language they would have in the courtroom? So it was the Persian language. which was followed by Arabic, their native Turkoman language, and some North Indian dialects. Okay, so these were the languages which they used to speak in their courtrooms. Although it was not their native language, the Khilji sultans encouraged the use of Persian. So they used to speak all these languages. They used to speak Arabic, they used to speak Turkoman language, they used to speak North Indian dialect. But among all these dialects, they focused or they emphasized only on the use of Persian language. Okay, just and highlight that, the use of Persian language. This coexistence of different languages gave birth to an early form of Urdu. So when they started using this mixture of dialects in their courtrooms, so what did it give birth to? To the use of
Urdu.
language. Okay. So which customs these Khilji dynasty used to follow? Let me ask you all if you remember before we go ahead.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes. Customs and
Ma'am,
habits. Yes, Mariam.
Ma'am, they followed the customs of Afghanistan.
Yes. And which languages did they use in the courtrooms?
Ma'am, can I tell?
Yes, Amriti.
Ma'am, they used Persian followed by Arabic and their native Turkoman language and some North Indian dialects.
Yes. And among all the dialects which they used to speak in, which was the one language which they emphasized and encouraged a lot?
Persian.
Persian language. Okay. And because of this, what had happened? It gave rise to which language?
Urdu.
Urdu language. All right. So everybody understood the first page?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's go on to the next page. Ready, everyone?
Yes,
With the
ma'am.
end of the Mamluk dynasty, the power of the slave sultans and pure Turks came to an end. So, Mamluk dynasty, as we had seen in the previous chapter, that the Mamluk dynasty had come to an end. Okay, and now the next dynasty which took up after the end of Mamluk dynasty was the Khilji dynasty. Khilji dynasty was named after a village in Afghanistan. Underline this entire sentence. So, Khilji dynasty is named after a village in Afghanistan. Some historians claim that they were Afghans, and others say that they originated from Turks. This dynasty assured in the reign of Indian Muslims. The founder of this dynasty is Jalaluddin Khilji. Okay, Jalaluddin Khilji had overthrown the successors of Balban and ascended the throne in Delhi. So basically, Jalaluddin Khilji, what did he do? He overthrew all the successors of Balban. Balban was the last ruler. Do you remember?
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. After Balban, they had successors because
they had, but that's what he's saying. Whatever successors were there after
yes, ma'am. They
Balban,
overthrown the successors of
yes,
Balban.
Jalaluddin Khilji overthrew all his successors and then he took over the throne in Delhi. Got it?
I mean, he took over the throne at a very late age, ma'am.
Yes. Let's see. When
the age
did
of
he
7.
took over the throne? Okay. So let us study more about Jalaluddin Khilji. Note down the years from 1290 till 1296 was the ruling period of Jalaluddin Khilji. So Jalaluddin was an elderly man of 70 years when he took over the throne. So he was almost at the age of 70 years when he took over the throne. By nature, he was kind and generous and allowed the nobles to keep their power. During the initial days of his reign, he did not get support from the nobles and those around him. It was only due to his character and generosity that he settled down. Being a peaceful and a mild man, he did not pursue any conquests. However, he did manage to defend his territories from the Mughal attack. So the Jalaluddin Khilji was almost of 70 years of age by the time he took over the throne of Delhi. Why? Because if you will see in the Mamluk dynasty, usually the throne was passed to the successors, right? The son used to take. So even if the sons were younger, they took up the throne. But now this entire dynasty is being changed, right? It has come from Mamluk to Khilji. He's the founder. So that's why it took so many years for him to found his own dynasty, and then he took over after the age of 70 years, okay, almost when he was the age of 70 years. Now according to this, like his nature was a very generous, he was a generous person, he was a kind person, he never ever, interfered in the administration of the workers. But then when he took over the throne, so initially he did face, various oppositions, which he handled it very peacefully. So now just being since he was a person with a kind nature, with generous nature, so he would hardly take part in any conquest. But when it comes to protecting his territory, he did took part, and he made sure that his entire territory where he is ruling is being safeguarded from the Mongol attack. You remember Mongol attacks were there.
Yes,
Number
ma'am.
of Mongol attacks were there
Yes,
even in the
ma'am.
Mamluk dynasty.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. In 1290, he invaded. This is important. In 1290, he invaded the fort of Ranthambore. Okay. Then these are all his works. Okay. Managed to defend, and you will underline this also, that he managed to defend his territory from Mongol attack. And this is important. All right. Next, he invaded the fort of Ranthambore. Make a note of it. Next, he captured Mandawar from the Rajputs. This is also important. Okay. Next, what else did he do? The Mongols under the leadership of Abdullah attacked Punjab. So Jalaluddin immediately reached the banks of the Indus to meet his adversary. He defeated, okay, the meaning of the word adversary means enemies. All right. He was determined adversary of the reformation. So make a note of it. The meaning of the word adversary is enemy. He when he under the leadership of Abdullah, when the Mongols were started attacking him at Punjab, so what did Jalaluddin do? He immediately reached and met all his enemies near the banks of Indus. Now he defeated the advance guard of the Mughal forces, but besought peace for fear of the main force. Okay, peace was agreed upon, and the Mongols withdrew. However, Ulugh, a descendant of Genghis Khan, accepted Islam and continued to stay in India. So basically, he was a person, looking at this, we could make out that he was a person who preferred having peace and settling the disputes in a peaceful manner instead of having a war, instead of having attacks. Okay, so basically when he came to know that they are going to attack, so what did he do? Immediately he also got involved, and he made a peaceful agreement between the two. All right, so even the Mongols agreed for the peaceful settlement, but the descendant of Genghis Khan, okay, he what was the name of his descendant, Genghis Khan's descendants? Ulugh. Okay,
Ulg.
accepted Islam, and he continued to stay in India. Then in the year 1294, his nephew Alauddin, underline the name of his nephew, Alauddin. He raided Devagiri in the south, and he defeated Ramachandra Yadav, the ruler. Alauddin returned home with immense treasures comprising gold and precious articles. Okay, so after him, Jalaluddin Khilji's nephew, His name is Alauddin. What did he do? He raided Devagiri and he defeated Ramchandra Yadav, who was the ruler. And what did he do? He returned with lots of treasures. What was there in that? Lots of gold and precious articles. Now, as a ruler, Jalaluddin was weak since he was unable to strengthen and enlarge his empire. What was his main focus? To make sure that his territory is protected. Okay, if anybody is attacking, he used to make sure that he protects his territory from other external attacks. But he failed to expand his territories. If you will see the other rulers which we studied in the Mamluk dynasty, instead of just taking care of their territories, they even started expanding the territories, right? They went for wars. They used to keep on attacking. They used to keep on defeating the enemies. But his approach, the approach of Jalaluddin Khilji, was completely different. Okay, so he hardly focused on strengthening and enlarging his empire. Underline this. He was unable to strengthen and enlarge his empire. Additionally, he was unable to curb any rebellions and aimed against him, and he treated the rebels with leniency and mildness. So if ever he met any rebellious people, anybody rebelling against him, so he never retaliated or responded to them in that manner. Instead, he kept his leniency and mildness. Okay, so you can make out what type of a ruler he was. All right, you can underline this. He treated the rebels with leniency and mildness. There were many conspiracies and plans to overthrow or kill Jalaluddin. Okay, so since he was so mild, since he was so kind-hearted, he was generous, he did not want war, he wanted to settle everything peacefully, and he used to only focus on protecting his territories instead of expanding it more. Okay, he had lots of enemies and lots of conspiracies taking where people didn't want him to continue as the king. So a saint called Siddhi Mola was supportive of the rebellious chiefs. Jalaluddin got him trampled under the feet of an elephant. However, in such incidents, he acted with great care and concerns. Okay, so there was one saint whose name was Siddhi Mola. Please underline. What did he do? He supported the rebellious chiefs who were against Jalaluddin. So in return to that, what did Jalaluddin do? He made sure that this particular saint gets trampled under the feet of elephant. Okay, so that it becomes a lesson for the rest of his rebellious people. Have you all understood till here, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions?
No, ma'am.
No,
No
ma'am.
questions? All right. Next, in 1296, he was murdered by his nephew and son-in-law Alauddin, who even killed or blinded his sons and grandsons. To ensure his accession to the throne, Alauddin had Jalaluddin's head carried through the province on a spearhead for all to see. So this is so bad, instead of any outsider defeating him, he got defeated by his own nephew, who later on became his son-in-law also. Okay, so he killed him and he took over the throne. And he did not stop here. What did he do? He took Jalaluddin's head and he went on in the entire province to make everybody see what he had done to Jalaluddin. Okay, so who was Alauddin Khilji?
His nephew and son-in-law.
His nephew
Yes.
and
Please
son-in-law.
underline this. He was murdered by his nephew and son-in-law Alauddin. Yes. And then underline this, Jalaluddin's head carried through the province on the spearhead for all to see. All right. So have you all understood about Jalaluddin Khilji, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.